Before we get stuck into the workshop and the wonderful world of skill-based workforce management, I'll give you a bit of a brief intro into who we are and what you can expect from the call today. So my name is Sia Kubaritsis. I'm the Chief Customer Officer here at WithYouWithMe, and I'm joined here by Laura Berman, who is one of our consultants who is certified with Sophia, which for those of you who aren't familiar is a globally recognised framework called the Skills Framework for the Information Age. We're very happy to have you here as we explore a topic that I know is front of mind for many HR and organisational leaders, as well as team leaders, which is how to get started in a practical sense with the concept of skills-based workforce management. So in terms of what you can expect from the call today, we are going to try and keep things to around 30 minutes so that there is time for questions at the end. We encourage you to pop comments or questions in the chat as you go, or if you'd rather hang around at the end, of course, Laura and I are available to talk through any specifics. From a format perspective, Laura is going to take you through the basics of skills frameworks, including some best practice examples of frameworks you may want to consider if you're starting out on this journey, and we'll also give you a bit of a practical look at what implementation there may look like. The intent for today is that you walk away armed with some information on how you can get started with this journey. And if you are interested in moving to the next step in the process, which may be around skills mapping your people against a framework to identify things like professional development and internal mobility options, Laura will also share a little bit about the next workshop that we'll be running as part of this series as well. And before I do hand over to Laura, who is our expert in all things skills frameworks, I'll give you just a very brief context as to why this is a conversation that we care about and why we make a real effort to educate the market in this space. I do see a lot of familiar faces in the attendee list joining us on the call, but those who are not familiar, WithYouWithMe is a global HR tech company that works with organizations to solve the workforce skills challenge end to end. So that's everything from building skills frameworks to skills mapping employees' current skills and potential to learn new skills, and then using these workforce insights to develop highly targeted professional development or hiring plans or matching people to jobs and tasks on an ongoing basis. How it looks in practice obviously differs for every organisation, but I would say that we have been working in this space as one of the early pioneers for a very long time, almost 10 years, and we always like to start with skills frameworks and mapping job roles down to that specific capability and skill level. We do have a tech platform that allows us to do this at scale, and it does a lot of the legwork for our customers by essentially helping them assess skill levels and overlaying that information with people's potential to learn skills. And then using this data, we can clearly map out, learning opportunities for individuals to excel in their current role or what that path to that next promotion or job opportunity might look like. So basically, it's a great exercise to help organizations get to know every employee and understand how they can support team members in their current and future careers within the organization. So today, Laura, about to hand over to her, is going to take a deep dive into the best approach for how you can get started. What are the pieces, the processes you need to be able to start drawing insights and supporting your people initiatives. So over to you, Laura.
Thank you, Thea, and hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So there's a few questions that have popped up that I wanted just to keep top of mind as we start this discussion. So let me know if something comes to mind. I'll come back to these at the end of the call because we've got some time then for questions and any discussion. So really keen to hear from you. But today we're really looking at understanding where on the path your organisation might be. So maybe you've started your workforce skills journey, or perhaps you had started, but now you're a little bit stuck. So maybe you're using a tool that helps you to build a framework, but also to pull the key insights for planning and supporting your capability initiatives. Or maybe that's what you're looking for. Maybe that's where you're getting stuck. So very much so, understanding skills versus the skills that you need is where you need to get the clear visibility for workforce planning. So without that, things can become reactive. And I guess that's what we're really trying to get down to today, is really understanding how to build that foundation or that framework to get you started. So before I get into the weeds, I thought I'll just touch on a fundamental concept, and it really does speak to the why of the understanding and the importance of what we look at when we're thinking about people from a skills-based perspective. So when we define skill, it's the ability to perform a task competently. It's developed through learning and experience. So that encompasses both technical aspects, but also behavioral aspects like leadership and those capabilities. So skills are classified by proficiency levels, and they support our understanding of individuals and their fit to role. And that's based on ability. So the key here is that it's not then purely on experience or qualifications on a piece of paper. Now, the approach that we've taken to support organisations who've been looking at doing a capability program and they've come to us is sort of three parts to that. And it starts with clarity. So that's clarity around the roles and their alignment to an organisation's strategic goals. So from here, it allows us to then understand capability and be able to uncover natural strengths and validate opportunities for growth and learning. And with that clear alignment, we can then understand how that capability can uncover where there's certain skills gaps or where to build future skills, how you can start to build learning opportunities or pathways within an organisation that are targeted to both support the individual, but also the organisation and those goals. Now, today, I'm going to focus just on that first part around clarity, which is really just about understanding the skills and building that framework. And so, as sort of mentioned before, we are going to have a few other webinars coming up soon, and that's where I'm going to dive into those other aspects as well. But first up, let's dive into clarity. And as the webinar topic advertised, we're focusing today on building a skills framework and what are those key 3 steps. And I wanted to make this really practical. It's very much based on learning from working with organisations, whether they've started from scratch or maybe they've got stuck along the way. These are the things that sort of we uncovered were the key things to success, to get to success. So step 1 is defining the why. So thinking about the why in your organisation and what you're trying to achieve. Step 2 is around gathering corporate information and also aligning to a trusted framework and finding that framework. And step 3 is then testing that approach. So let's dive into those 3 things now. And first up is around, for building the skills framework, it is about defining the why. And I know that's classic, but it is a good opportunity to step back, take a slower approach, and think about what are the clear initiatives or goals that you're trying to achieve as a group. So is it for workforce planning, talent management, or learning and development? And I know for the people on the call, it's not always starting from HR. It can be starting from a team manager who's just wanting to try something different in terms of understanding the team itself. So at this point, I would be sure to gather some key stakeholders, and they can be HR and learning development, but I would also suggest if you were doing it as a sort of a cross-business pilot, that you should also include some team leaders, team managers, and also team members. That diversity of thought is always good when bringing in an approach, because when bringing in these types of frameworks, it's just as much about a structural change and understanding skills as it is a change management exercise. And so making sure that you're getting understanding about how to approach that from the get-go makes a huge difference. Okay, so then the next part, this is probably where takes the most time, is around developing that skills taxonomy. So it's really key for aligning workforce planning and business needs. And it's this well-structured approach that ensures clarity and consistency. So really understanding the roles and skills, and then also what progression might look like. So gathering anything that you might have that kind of ticks those boxes. So definitely job descriptions. It's always a good place to start, but I would just preface that don't rely on them, because we've found that quite often job descriptions don't quite provide the exact day-to-day skills that are really being used in those roles. So definitely a combination of information like that, as well as having workshops with your pilot group to understand what are those key tasks that you're doing, like what's really required for the role to be successful. The other key piece of information is then that workforce leveling. So that could be an org structure, or perhaps you also have some understanding about where things flow within the organisation. So that can really help with thinking about career progression, whether it be across the business or also the responsibilities and sort of expectations as individuals grow within their roles or within the business. That kind of information is really helpful to map out the complete framework. So once you've got that, then you need to find a skills framework, and there's many available, but you want something that will help you to apply this corporate information and to make sure that it's really usable. I'm going to talk about the one that we use and we find is sort of the best approach. And that is with Sophia, so Skills for the Information Age. So it's a globally recognised skills and competency framework. So it provides the common language and structure for defining skills, but also behaviours and knowledge. It's very much across business, and also technology professions. But the key thing and why we use it is that it's actually sort of across industry. So it's very flexible and broad. So it goes to the depth, but it definitely doesn't, it's not siloed. So there are other frameworks that can be just finance, team focused, or marketing. The great thing about Sophia is because it's cross organisation or cross industry, it means that you can then use it across the organisation, which I think is really important. But how does it work? So Sophia will break down job roles into specific skills and behaviours, and then it will provide descriptions of those skills and also at the different levels. So it's quite a standardised approach. And our next couple of slides, I thought I would just give you a bit of a tour that helps to understand how it all pulls together. So in terms of Sophia, there's kind of three layers of information. You've got your behaviours and attributes first. So that's things such as your the autonomy, or thinking about your independence within your role. There's also influence, so where you start to maybe have an impact on not just your team, but other teams within an organisation. You've then got the complexity, so as different types of skills get added in, and adds complexity into the role that you're doing. Then also some of those business skills and behaviours that really round out the role, and then also knowledge. So that key knowledge or specialised knowledge that you'll find that particular skills give you for a role. And across all of those particular behaviours and attributes, we have 7 levels. And this is where the depth of Sophia comes in. So if we sort of go through the different levels, so with level 1, called follow. So this is very much you're starting out using this skill. You get lots of guidance as you go through to get the task done each day. When you move up to a level 2, that's when you're starting to maybe help out, but you're still getting a little bit of guidance. At step 3 or level 3, you're starting to do the tasks independently. Step 4, you'll do things yourselves, but also maybe you're starting to help others, so with that particular skill. And then step 5, you're starting to give advice to others. Step 6, you're coming up with new ideas and you're influencing the decisions in that area. And then step 7 is when you're really leading a program of work, or you're setting the strategic intent in that area. So you can see that sort of this depth within the framework gives real clarity and lets you get down to the specific skills and needs, because this particular framework is then applied, those 7 levels, across all the professional skills. So there's currently 147 professional skills across various sectors that are part of Sophia. They've just released version 9, and they're always going out to industry to understand new skills that might be needed. They're always staying relevant and updating their framework, which is fantastic. So in terms of those skills, I'll just pull out one here. So as an example with digital marketing, so it actually doesn't span across all 7 skills. So in fact, it's just those 4. So as you go through, you can see for each of the skills, a description about what's the overarching guidelines for that skill, but then for each level, what does it mean to be at a level 2, 3, 4, or 5 for digital marketing itself. And there's content across all of that. So it's a lot of information, but the detail does give you that structure, which is great. That's one skill, but how about when we're wanting to find skills across a whole role? So as an example here, I've got the customer support representative. So we've pulled information from a job description. Maybe we've talked to the team to understand what are they doing day to day. And so we'll pull out probably like 7 to a maximum sort of 10 skills that would be a focus for this particular role. So there's skills within the Sophia framework like customer service support, problem management. They all make sense for this type of role, and something like business improvement. Matched to that are also some of the key behaviours that you would attribute to a customer support representative. So things like communication, collaboration, and improvement mindset. So it's all of those aspects make the Sophia framework really rich, because it does cover everything from understanding that technical or professional skills, as they call them, and also the behaviours that make you a success in that role. So it's really thorough. Okay, so that brings us to step 3 that I've got in there, which is around piloting and iterating. So in step 2, we had gone through and we'd got all the information, we'd found the framework and we were starting to build it out. But now we actually need to start creating it. So that's about thinking about creating a structured skill definition that's based on the descriptions and the proficiency levels, but also about gathering the team to be able to go in and validate that so that you can iterate that before launching to a wider audience. So at this point, I'm going to jump out of the slides because I wanted to show you a tool that we use where we can build our occupations, but also run through a pilot to make sure that we've got alignment with the organisation or the group. So I'm going to just flick across here. So within this tool, we can go through and we can set up our occupation. So in this case, let's say I'm going to set up a software developer. I can add in information in here about that to be specific. Maybe it's part of a specific department or something like that as well. I can then add in the specific skills. So for this one, there would be some programming, I would say. And within here, I can actually choose the level of importance. So another aspect within the skills that are required, just like with our job descriptions, there'll be core skills. There'll be those skills that are specialised for the role, or there might be some of the nice to have, the supplementary ones. So we can define what those particular skills are within here. We can clearly see the levels so that as we're building it out, we can verify, we can understand within here. And we can continue to do that for any of the skills that we want to do, want to add in within here. So I can go through here, add this one perhaps as a specialised skill, and we'll add that across. So once we've built out that skill, we'll apply that to our team members. So I'm going to move across to meet Sammy. That's not Sammy. Here she is. So with Sammy, we can see here when she's viewing her skills profile, it'll let her know the occupation. So in this case, it was that software developer one that I'd set up before. So she can see all the skills listed below that make up her role. She can go through and she can assess the levels. So it's that same information, and she can consider in her day-to-day, what's the level for that particular skill that she actually works on. She can also go through, she can link out to Sophia to find more information. Sometimes that can be handy, especially as she's understanding the program of work as part of that change management, to really give her all the information that she needs. And once again, come in here and decide, looking at the level and deciding what level best suits day to day. And key in here is that for Sammy in this case, for the team member and also the manager, there's no view of what the actual occupation requirement is, because this is as part of the validation process. It's trying to gather that information to get a really objective view of the world. So I'm going to jump back to Lisa. So for in the same space, we can see that Lisa can see Sammy's profile here. Again, it's a software developer. In the same way, Lisa has made an assessment. So this can be both for the individual and the role that they're validating, and make her own assessment here, which is great. She can go through and align the skills. So the great thing about this, that because the framework's now in this platform, the great thing is that there's data in here to have a discussion. So as members of the pilot, Lisa and Sammy can understand, okay, there was a few things that we didn't quite meet or agree on. So what does that look like? They can have a data-driven discussion to understand, to find alignment, to then verify the role. And also this could then transform into a development discussion. And there'll be the data then there to add that in. The last little thing that I wanted to show you for Lisa is that because she's at that manager level, she can also get a sense of where everyone is within the organisation. She can also move to other teams as she starts to build that out. And just as a little aside and a little extra, because we've built the framework, it means that we can start building from that now into other initiatives. So as an example, rather than just looking at roles like currently for an individual, we can start considering other roles. So as an example, we could go through and there's a particular role in the sales team around e-commerce. So we can start looking at other roles within the organisation. And we can see here that Sammy pops up. So Sammy, the software developer, pops up here within this job card. So this is morphing into the capability side, which is something that I'll come back to in future webinars, and I'll talk more about this. But I guess the key thing that I wanted to show you was that being able to go through and understand exactly that the framework does fit means that you can get that baseline, and also you then be able to unlock the insights. So it's going to give you a really good digital tool to be able to then assess skills for individuals, uncover any gap analysis, but also where there could be some learning opportunities or some programming as well. So getting that skills foundation right, and that's why we wanted to do a session today purely on just building that, is that once you've got that in place, then there's so many things that you can do and you can use it to apply. It's really going to help you across the business in terms of any of your initiatives that you wanted to do around capability, around people and team. And by having it in a really clear format means that you'll get a really good experience for everyone in the organisation, which is always good for these types of people initiatives. But that's the key that I wanted to share with today. So I've got a bit of a checklist. So my 3 from earlier has become 5 somehow. But I wanted to, the key things to check off is aligning to that business goal or initiative. So making sure that you're really clear about the initial intention with the framework, and have a pilot team. So starting small so that then you can sort of embed that thinking for success in the future. Spend time gathering all the role information. So even if that does mean having some smaller sort of workshops where you can really think about what truly are the skills that are required for a role, that in itself can be a really great thing to do. Choose the skills framework. Obviously, I definitely recommend Sophia. They're thorough. There's a lot of information in there, and it's really good to use. But then also having a tool that you can use that will allow you to simply build out your framework, but also be able to validate it and also then use it for across the business, for sure.
Laura, just before we move on to the last slide, just to go back to the align to a business goal or initiative. Sorry, key takeaways. I just wanted to sort of highlight, I think this is one of the most important pieces that I know with our customers and partners, we see them come unstuck, because I think, we hear and learn a lot about skills-based employment and skills-based management models. And certainly in the HR sphere, there is an appreciation for why it is the model of the future, why we need to start looking at people in this way, and the real business benefits it can deliver across a whole raft of areas. Where it becomes unstuck is, unless it is tied to that strategic objective, it can be difficult to get over the line with an executive team who may be thinking of a million different priorities. And certainly for HR leaders, we know that there is a lot of different priorities and programs that are, fighting for your time. So I would just say with that one, if there is a known issue such as, employee retention or cost to hire, and you're needing to freeze budgets, or, there's significant digital transformation or the impact of AI and automation on roles, having a skill framework is a really clever data-driven approach to how you start to solve those kinds of problems. So, beyond aligning the framework itself to the business goals or initiatives, what are the skills you need for the future and how are you going to get there? It really does help to tie it to something tangible that is on the organization's agenda, so that you can get that business case to get it over the line.
Okay. So I wanted to open the floor to questions, and also come back to the questions that I was interested in as well. If there's anyone on the call who is keen to share about their experience with building out a skills framework, whether they're in the process at the moment or, keen to hear. Now, obviously, I'll stay on the line as well. But I wanted to also just add in my details here. So if you wanted to reach out, please do. Happy to have a discussion just to talk about sort of best approach anytime. And as I mentioned, there's a couple of other workshops that we're planning on coming up in the next few weeks or so around that capability piece. So once you've got that framework in place, really how you can draw out the insights and the type of insights that you can get. And then also once you've got to that point of building out the teams, then being able to get that corporate insight to really support any strategic initiatives that you might have as well.
That's great, Laura. And just one thing to add, I can see some comments coming through in the chat, but for those of you who are interested in terms of how to make this practical based off some of those tips with Laura, a really great starting point can just be perhaps reaching out to us with a sample position description, and we can show you how that will start to translate to skills, just to help connect the dots in your mind. So yeah, Laura will be in touch via email afterwards. And if you do want to send something through for us to have a look at, very, very happy to support. Great. Thanks, everyone. Good to have you here. See you next time.